detective thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. No Gibbo, he's out for a few weeks. He's away travelling. No Maddie, he's got children. So you'll have to put up with Jared and my shit for a few episodes over the next few weeks. This week we've decided to take a quick look back at the Punisher films. I believe you put this out there.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think I put out something different and you came... I think I put out Darkman and you said, how about the Punisher?
No. I said, let me just re-look at this. You said, what about Darkman? I said, that's an interesting choice. And then I said something else.
You said, what about the Punisher?
No, I didn't say the Punisher. Then you came back with, so you say you want to watch the
No, you said
the Punisher.
You said the Punisher, and I knew you were referring to Thomas Janes, so I came back with a gag of, so you want to watch Dolph.
And then I took it.
Punisher, and you said, yep.
So ultimately, you fucked yourself.
Well,
you got too fancy, mate.
Well, you talked in circles here. You're saying I made the choice. I threw out Darkman, and you said, "Oh yeah, interesting choice," and then just fucking didn't even consider it.
And then just barreled over the top of it.
Yeah, interesting choice. Let's watch the Punisher instead.
Yeah, but I was going with TJ's. I wasn't interested in Dolph.
It's always, it's always the man of the 2000s.
He keeps pulling me back.
Well, he keeps pulling you back, but not many other people.
No, he's not pulling people into the theatre. I believe. All right, before we get to that, we'll just get through what we've been watching recently. I watched Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones.
Yep.
Mate, it was really good. Yeah, look, do I think that the joke Michael Jackson? Oh, look, I wouldn't have said it.
No.
But am I offended by it? Not really.
Not really.
Well, yeah, look, I don't think it was a good choice, and I didn't find it particularly funny. But apart from that, he just kind of moved on.
You know what, though? The second one out of the previous two specials was way worse than this one.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't even making jokes. He was just... Parts of that one, he was just putting his thoughts out there and, defending Louis C.K. and things like that. And that was the one where I was sitting there going, fuck, mate, come on. This one... There was a couple of jokes that probably stepped over the line, but as soon as he finished up the Michael Jackson work and got into the R. Kelly, I was in stitches, mate.
Look, I got a lot more laughs out of this than, as you say, the one where he kind of just sat there.
Yeah, smaller crowd.
Yeah, that one was bad. Not just... I remember watching that one and thinking it wasn't even that funny.
No, it wasn't that funny, and he was
he was kind of on a rant, and, look, mate, the bloke has a right to his own opinion. I don't agree with it. I didn't think those particular jokes were that funny. But other than that, everything else worked out for me, and I found it rather amusing.
Yeah.
Because my daughter and my wife were together, we decided to sit down and watch Divergent and Insurgent. Kind of cut rate Hunger Games. Yeah. Really. Decent cast, but it's really just cut rate Hunger Games. And you can see they didn't even get to finish that one, I believe.
No.
They cut the third film into two, and it failed dismally, and so they didn't even bother. So you can't even finish it up. I mean, Christ.
Man, imagine if you were like the world's biggest fan of the Divergent books. Come out with, we're cutting the third one in half, and then, a year later... Well, that didn't work out, so you're not actually getting the end of the trilogy.
Do you know what?
The end of the series.
I thought to myself, okay, I can kind of... Maybe they did it because, they'd made a lot of money and they were, But I haven't looked back at the box office. The numbers weren't even that big.
No.
So I think their eyes got too big for their belly. We'll make it two films.
They should have said, let's jam 2 or 3 together while, there's a little bit, while there's still a few embers burning here.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said, it's got a good cast of actors, and it's well made, but it feels like the Hunger Games, just a little bit cut rate, and, nothing special, put it that way. Jared, for some reason, I was sitting on the couch, it was a Saturday afternoon, I think I'd been asleep, I'm not going to lie, and I came across some Airport 77.
Oh, yeah?
Fucking hell. You know what? Airplane is a piss take.
Yeah.
But Airport 77 may as well be a piss take. The bloody plane crashes in the Bermuda Triangle.
Awesome.
And I'm watching it going, what's going on here? And it's got actors who are, I assume, I mean, this was obviously paycheck films back then. Because you had people like bloody Jimmy Stewart and Jack Lemmon and all this sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, what are they doing here? Oh, that's right.
They had bills to pay.
Yeah, that's right. They had bills to pay.
Everyone's got to make a living.
I mean, quite frankly, I laughed pretty hard while watching it. So I probably enjoyed myself. And the last big one for me was I actually started watching American Horror Story, 1984.
Yep.
The first 2 episodes so far. The first episode was classic slasher. It was gold. Absolute gold. I was just sitting there just thinking about, it was very much like Friday the 13th and all them. Mm-hmm. Including this, and I got some massive laughs with the bloke from Glee rocking up with a dirty great fucking mullet, and he's got a huge cock. And he's mumbling about how, I bet myself I could sleep with that bird. And the other guy's going, you bet yourself? And he's like, giving him this dopey looking look. The first episode was really good. The second episode got a little weird.
Right.
It kind of went, it was still in the slasher movie sort of setup, but I think these American Horror Story always has a supernatural bent.
Angle, yeah.
And I think we started to see the supernatural part.
Right.
And it wasn't bad, it was just that I was kind of like, this is a little bit off tap. This isn't quite what I anticipated. But I'll continue it. I think it goes for 8 episodes. We'll see how it goes from there. But that's it for me.
Right.
What about you?
So I had it was funny. My selection of films was comprised of a lot of like tangents. Like I'd watch something and then I'd think, oh, this director made something else or whatever, and so I'd watch that. I had all these little tangents. But so I started off with there was a new Batman Lego one that came out, so I watched that with the kids. They're always a bit of fun, especially if you're fans of like the DC comics and the lore and whatever. They always take the piss out of certain angles of it and have good fun with it. I finally watched the Banana Split movie. It was good fun. Yeah. It was fun. Look, it's not great. It's made by Sci-Fi. It's pretty cheap. It's got some things about it that are a bit silly, and essentially they made a Five Nights at Freddy movie with a cheaper property, I think. But being what it was and watching it when I was a kid, it was kind of funny to see it in this kind of new light. And some of it actually worked. Like, I actually really enjoyed it, watching it. As a movie, it's not great shakes, but it was fun enough to watch. So I also watched Chappelle, and I also I checked out Bill Burr as well, his new one. Same thing. He says a lot of controversial things sometimes, and but when it's just his comedy and his jokes, when it's good, it's really good. Like, he's very, very funny. So getting into the tangents, I watched Robin Hood, Taron Egerton.
Oh.
Look, much like Gibbo, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and King Arthur is quite a good comparison because it was the same sort of thing. It was trying to take that old property and make it edgy and cool, and basically it was just like Arrow all over again. I know the Green Arrow is kind of like Robin Hood anyway, but it was like trying to add a little bit of grit to it. Yeah. So here's where the first of the tangents came out. I finished watching that one and realised Netflix also had Russell Crowe's Robin Hood.
They went down that.
So I backed up and went straight into
laser focus. So that one was. That one was laser focus.
Yeah. Look, I probably it wasn't great either, but it was.
Isn't it
more
2.5 hours or 3 hours?
It is lengthy. It is lengthy, but it was more in keeping with what I expected out of Robin Hood.
Classic kind of.
Yeah, the setting and the characters, and I actually think somewhere in the middle lies a really good Robin Hood movie.
Prince of Thieves?
Prince of Thieves, yeah, maybe. Or Men in Tights, something like that. No, I think
Men in Tights.
Because Rusty's looked the part and got a couple of the characters really right. But it was lacking in fun. I thought they were supposed to be the fucking merry men, not the bloody,
They were dour.
Yeah, they were the dour men, that's for sure. But the other one was too far removed from it. And yeah. Anyway, moving on. I watched the Between Two Ferns movie.
Oh my god! I saw the trailer for that and did laugh.
Oh mate, because the Between Two Ferns interviews used to be fucking hilarious. I used to, every time there was a new one, I'd be straight on it, and like they were so funny. So when I saw the movie, I was like, I've got to check it out.
And what is it? Just the interviews that have previously been done?
No. So it's taking it as if it's kind of like mockumentary style, as if Zach Galifianakis is doing these interviews at like a small regional news station, and Will Ferrell's like the evil corporate bloke, you know, cashing in on it all, and then cuts him a deal. He's got to do 10 interviews, and he'll take him to Hollywood. So they do 10 of the interviews, and they have people like Brie Larson and John Hamm and doing the Between Two Ferns. Matthew McConaughey, absolutely hilarious. Like one of the ones, I was in tears for about 2 minutes, and Galifianakis is there going, when you and Woody Harrelson get together, are the pair of you just so sad that somewhere in the world there's a sack not being hacky? And McConaughey, it was actually in the outtakes, McConaughey just fucking burst out laughing. But the outtakes are fucking 5 minutes of some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. But yeah, the movie's alright. If you like the interview stuff, there's enough of that in there to get you laughing.
Broken up by
and then broken up by some plot. And some of that you get a few laughs out of too. So yeah, it's not...
I'm assuming she's fairly short.
Yeah, it was only about 90 minutes, I think.
I might have to give it a run.
Yeah, I would check it out. But watch the old videos first. Watch all the Between Two Ferns, because then you get, you know, the style that he was going for. Essentially, it's just him fucking taking the piss out of everybody there, and then he kind of takes that character and makes it what he's like in the movie. It's essentially it's like his character from The Hangovers, but if he was a real bloke.
Yeah.
And...
is there a tangent off that?
No, there was no tangent off that, but there was a tangent off Dolph Lundgren's Punisher. So the director of The Punisher also directed Dead Heat with Trent Williams and Joe Piscopo.
Yeah, who wrote that? Shane Black's brother.
Terry Black, that's right.
It's an absolute shit show, isn't it?
It was alright. It was a bit of fun.
Where'd you find it?
YouTube.
Oh, fuck, I'm going to get on it. I haven't seen that in years.
No one wants to lock the rights to that one down. So
Piscopo and Williams.
Piscopo and Williams. What a pair. And Williams' character is called Roger Mortis.
Yeah.
So, of course, you know.
Oh, my
where
God.
this is heading.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather... It's similar in a sense to, like, R.I.P.D. I'd watch this one in a heartbeat before I watch that again.
Yeah.
Like, this one was quite fun. Some pretty cool effects and things like that.
Really?
So, yep.
I remember watching it many, many years ago when I was a younger bloke.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it then.
Yeah.
Piscopo's not an actor's...
Piscopo, no, he's not a big
arsehole.
Every one of his lines is a gag.
Yeah.
And not all of them land, but a couple do. So, yeah, it's worthwhile.
Yeah, all right. YouTube, here we go.
Yeah, YouTube. The other one, Amazon Prime came through with the goods and threw up The Stuff.
Did you watch
So I'm watching. I've got a little bit left, but quite enjoying it at the moment. It's got a
Is
bit
that
of a
Larry
They
Cohen?
Live. It's got a bit of a They Live vibe to it.
Yeah.
Where it seems to be, you know, taking a bit of a shot at commercialism and things like
Is
that.
that Larry Cohen?
Yeah, I think he was involved. And the last one I watched is I Started Marrying on Netflix. That's the French one that all the horror websites are up, you know.
Is that a show?
Falling all
or is
over
it
themselves for. Yeah, it's an 8-episode show. It's about an author who's writing these characters, and they sort of come to life or seem to be something that was previously with her, and she was having nightmares and shit, and then she wrote about the characters and they went away, and she's doing a book signing, and one of her old friends turns up and fucking delivers this thing to her from her mum, and it's, you know, it's essentially like it's involves a body part and that sort of thing, and she's like, fuck, this is, and the woman starts rambling about how you brought this back, she wants you back and all this sort of stuff. So I'm only at the start, but some of the imagery and some of the scares are quite good. Okay. There's an old lady involved who's just, I mean, she's creepy to look at, but when she starts sneering and doing those kind of evil smiles and shit, yeah, very creepy. So
okay,
worthwhile.
All right, that's everything.
That's it.
All right, let's take a break.
Tangents. Only a couple of tangents, really.
Let's take a break. Here is the trailer for 1989's The Punisher.
If society won't punish the guilty, he will.
see this board here? Every time he kills somebody, I put a red pin in. So far, the only thing that I've got to show for it is these little calling cards here and a whole bunch of these.
Now let me tell you something about this Punisher. If he ever shows up within 1,000 yards of me, he'll find out what the word punished really means.
He defends the innocent. But if you're guilty, he gives no warning and shows no mercy.
What the hell is this? Trouble.
Dolph Lundgren, Louis Gossett Jr.
Mr. P, happy hunting!
The Punisher. Justice with a vengeance.
The Punisher from 1989, directed by Mark Goldblatt, who, as you pointed out, directed Dead Heat. But he also edited, a lot of really good films, including things like T2 and stuff like that. So he was a very well-known editor. Produced by Robert Mark Kamen, who wrote The Fifth Element, Taken, and The Transporter. So he's obviously in pretty tight with Luc Besson. And it's written by Boaz Yakin. He directed Remember the Titans. He also wrote Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights. And Now You See Me. So,
And Now You See Me too, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. But people who actually did have some experience. It stars Dolph Lundgren as Frank Castle, Louis Gossett Jr. as Jake Berkowitz, and Jerome Crabb as Gianni Franco. Budget was $9 million. And unfortunately, I have an unknown for box office because it wasn't released wide theatrically. In fact, I'm not even sure if it was released theatrically. Now, there's a little bit of trivia here. It's stated that Dolph helped revise the Punisher's monologues to be more comfortable saying them. I think that might be code for cut large chunks of it out.
Yeah.
And also, the role of Frank Castle was initially offered to Michael Paré. But due to his busy schedule, he passed. I don't know what's funnier. It was offered to Michael Paré or his busy schedule. Yeah. And you said someone mentioned Christophe Lambert's name.
Lambert got mentioned at some point.
Jesus Christ.
All right. In the cruises to the Punisher. It just would have been, just would have continued the upward.
Well, that seems right. It's a bit like Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan to the Punisher.
Eddie in the cruises.
Eddie in the cruises, yeah. My thoughts on this is it actually does have a couple of good moments, but it's just let down by... it's cheap as chips, like really.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have a lot of scope. It's a pretty small, contained sort of film. Lundgren looks the part, but he never truly convinces as Frank Castle. He's very wooden, and it was early in his acting career. I'm not knocking him. It's just the role doesn't... They don't offer a lot of shades to the role either. So there's not a lot there.
Shades of shit.
And I'm not going to call the action scenes pulse pounders at any point.
No.
So for me personally, yeah, it's 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Which I think's been pretty fucking generous, to be honest.
Yeah, I was the same. There was parts of it. There was a couple of sequences that I genuinely enjoyed. They were fine for a cheap little action flick. But the thing is, I felt like Dolph was fine as the Punisher that they wrote.
Yeah.
But they didn't explore any of the grief or anything, and I'm not sure Dolph was the man to do that anyway. So, yeah, for that part of it.
Not to knock Dolph, but I think his first question was, "What's grief?"
I think he was okay for what you were going for, but yeah, the story's a bit muddled. As you said, cheap as chips. A couple of things. There's just some random things occasionally where you're like, what the, what? Even in a movie that's not going to win you Oscars, you're looking at the writing and going, who put that in there? Like, So yeah, overall, I think it was a 2 out of 5 as well. Pulse pounding action sequences, as you mentioned, weren't quite the order of the day.
But I checked my Fitbit, my heart rate did not register any higher than about 60.
Yeah, I think they spoke to the stunt people and just said, "Look, we just want steady heartbeats will do."
Don't go overboard. We don't want anyone having a fucking heart attack.
Just a solid resting heart rate will do for us.
The opening sequence where Castle takes out Moretti and his goons is actually not too bad.
Yeah, that's really good. Although you passed over the ENN Exposition Nightly News feeling. that was an absolute. It was so silly, but it made my likes because it was an all timer. They
explained the whole fucking plot.
They explained Castle's backstory in about 20 seconds, and then they drop. Oh, there's there are a couple of more murders attributed to the mysterious Punisher after they've just told us Frank Castle's backstory and how it was so funny. I was in stitches when that was going on. But yeah, that sequence in the
actually
mansion
not bad.
is actually pretty good.
And it's because they keep the Punisher they don't show him in full. They kind of do it a little bit by stealth, or as stealthy as Dolph Lundgren can do it.
Yeah.
But it works.
Hey mate, he's Olympic level athlete. I'm sure he could do stealthy.
I have got question marks on Moretti's fucking security detail.
Yeah.
He just seems to walk through a window on the top floor.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he got in there, but
it's not too bad.
Aside from the acting of the goons, the scene was pretty good, and it was more in keeping with. He sticks to the shadows
because they say the whole mysterious Punisher that we know of.
Yeah,
this worked to go that way.
And
plus,
he sticks to the shadows until he's got the mobsters cleaned up.
Yeah,
and then it's just.
Honestly, I was in absolute stitches when he walks out into the doorway. You see him briefly.
Yeah,
and then he steps away and everything blows up. You just hear this reporter going, "Oh God, there's shit all over the lens."
Yeah. That was I remember watching this about 10 years ago with a couple of mates, and all of us cracked up during that scene because
just couldn't stop laughing.
Because some of the shots, don't say a couple of the shots even going kind of slow mo.
Yeah,
and then. But they still keep the chatter from the reporters going throughout the whole sequence, and it really sort of undermines what is a pretty solid shot of Dolph in the doorway,
with
and then the house blowing up around him. That was all awesome. But yeah, that guy going on about shit all over the lens. But even before that, there's a little chatter, and you hear, "Hey, who's that? Oh my God!" It's constantly going.
Louis Gossett Jr.
All class.
Excellent actor.
Yeah.
Mate, I mean, his career, he just didn't get the opportunities.
He's just got a presence.
He does, and he's got a real sort of, he sells it.
Yeah.
He sells it well.
Even the second he's on screen, the very first thing is when they're talking to him, and he's like, "No comment. And then he turns around, he's like,
"Haven't you got anything better to do? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Shit."
It was awesome. The line about, it's 2 in the goddamn morning. And then he turns around, sort of more facing the camera, and gives it a shit and delivers it like few others in Hollywood can deliver it.
Yeah, look, Gossett Jr. brings a touch of class to the acting stakes because he's funny. He's Robinson Crusoe in that.
I was going to say, he's on an island. I don't even think he's on an island. I think he's on a raft floating in the ocean. He's just got that little piece to work with.
He's like that character in bloody The Shallows. He's fucking rock.
Yeah,
there's a shark circling. The bloke he's all class.
Yeah.
And I've been a Louis Gossett Jr. fan for years.
Yeah.
He just never quite got those opportunities, even though he won an Oscar.
You just loved your Iron Eagle back in the day.
I love my Iron Eagle, my Jaws 3D. Oh, God, yes.
What about Toy Soldiers? Isn't it Toy
Toy
Soldiers?
Soldiers.
Pick up that banana.
Toy Soldiers. You know what? He actually made some good pictures in amongst it all.
Yeah. Toy Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers was good.
We have to do that.
That is a good film. Personal favourite of mine was Midnight Sting. I'm fucking not joking. Check it out.
Okay.
It's bloody good. Yeah, James Woods, Louis Gossett Jr. It's bloody good.
James Woods. Talking about blokes who've lost touch with reality.
As an actor, great actor. I don't give a fuck what he does in his personal life.
You've got to qualify that whenever you're talking
as
about
an actor, I like James Woods. Everything else, I don't want to know them. Look, I actually liked the idea of the Yakuza coming into for a hostile takeover, basically.
Yeah.
Of organised crime, and basically being seen as kind of like this mysterious presence that was, basically going to take them all out.
Well, it mixed up the kind of the bad guys, I suppose, that he was running into. Funnily enough, it's kind of like when John Bernthal made his debut with the Punisher in Daredevil season 2. It was like the Hand was running around all over again. It was, I was watching it going, this is a bit funny now in retrospect, but it was. I had a massive problem with one aspect of it, but in terms of,
but at least it kind of gave some other angles.
Well, at least like the subplot of her in the restaurant, like the restaurant scene was funny in the when everyone pulls a gun out.
Yeah.
But another side of it was like, that's pretty cool. The way they've set it up is just this evil villain plot in there actually kind of works. The way
I also kind of like the fact that she poisoned them, not shot them. I thought that was really cool because you're kind of thinking, in a movie of this caliber, I'm thinking it's a massive shootout and they're all killed.
Yeah, you're expecting it all down the line, and when she kind of laughs and says, "I've already killed you," you're like, "Oh,
that was actually rather interesting."
I was expecting Dolph to be sitting and go, "Hey, well, to be punished."
Well done, fellas. Yeah. So I kind of like that, but I just felt it brought a little angle to it that was at least interesting, at the very least.
And it sets up things down the track. It sets up the sequences where Dolph's got to take him on with the guy that he's trying to take.
The double crossing and the whole "you need to help me to get my son back."
Yeah.
Those things play into it and offer again a slightly different angle to it all, which I thought was okay. There is one particular scene in the prison cell when Castle's been arrested where Gossett Jr. and Castle have a conversation, and mate, Gossett Jr. sells it beautifully.
He's doing the heavy lifting.
He's doing all the heavy lifting. But Dolph even kind of showcases a little bit of, a slight bit of emotion there.
Yeah.
It's a good sequence where he's saying, you've killed 125 people. You're sick.
Yeah.
You're a sick man. Basically, for all this shit about being the Punisher and punishing people, you're actually a mass murderer, basically.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that. I thought that was really an interesting and intriguing way to kind of place that character.
Yeah, and it sort of went back to Gossett's backstory as well, which I actually liked when he's talking about how he was basically a drunk and ruined his career, but Castle was the one that was
dragged him out of it.
I want to learn from the best. And you're the best, just not in your current state. Basically, it was kind of like that was his only lifeline left. It was a little bit cliche, the backstory, but I thought again Gossett sold it, worked pretty well for what it was, and I wish they'd kind of explored that just a little more.
Well, that's right. I mean, of all the Punisher films and TV shows out there, I don't think anyone's looked at it that way. We always look at the Punisher as this righteous individual.
Yeah, I think the Netflix one did a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but not... It also had the whole...
Seen series 2
yeah,
yet,
I haven't seen series 2.
There is some parts in series 2 where the cop especially is trying to... Even then, you're right, he sort of comes back to that Castle is doing the right thing, but there is parts where he's just telling him what you're doing is not right.
Yeah.
You are still a crook, basically.
Yeah. And I actually like that angle.
With the amount of episodes that it got, even though it was only a short run on Netflix, it's still got 20 plus hours to explore that stuff.
And so the TV show had more time to perhaps dig into it.
But the mental illness part of it is quite intriguing, really. They actually do it a bit more with Jigsaw in the Netflix series. They go into the mental illness side of it.
Yeah.
And it Yeah, I think
it's not hard to
take.
it's not hard to think that the TV show is always going to be probably superior because they have more time to
And
look.
it wasn't made by New World Pictures.
Yeah, but none of the films have the time to explore.
No, and at this point, like, you can't hold it against this movie because at this point, these guys clearly didn't know what the fuck they were doing with comic book movies. You know, they were just taking the character and going,
89.
well, what about, you don't talk to the writers of the comic books. You say, right, well, fuck, what's this? A revenge story, right? Yeah, don't worry about what you've got over there. Don't worry about that established history. Won't bother looking at the good stories that you've got. We'll just rewrite it. We'll write what we want to write.
And the other thing about that sequence in the cell that I liked was it kind of humanised the character a little bit. It kind of gave it.
I thought you were going to say the way that Lundgren expressed his sort of disenchantment with life and the world, and
Lundgren kept his shit to a minimum in that
how he
sequence.
wordlessly just gave that all to you on.
Do you think that
on screen?
He talked more, but then as they looked back at that, they were saying, Dolph, you probably do less in this
Just
sequence.
say, look, Dolph,
Let Lewis do it, mate. He's okay.
They said, Dolph, I really like how you're saying it with your eyes.
Yeah. And Dolph's like, yeah. And I keep going over to Gossett Jr. and go, listen, just tell him to shut up. Keep going.
Lewis, just talk over him.
But it's a good sequence, that. It's one of the rare ones that's really well acted, apart from Gossett Jr.
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Because Gossett Jr. is surrounded by lesser thespians. Lesser thespians. In the film, that sequence is the only one that I kind of felt a little bit of a human element to the Punisher.
Look, we're giving him a bit of a kicking, but I am going to say, I'm putting it in the likes, that upon review for what they wrote, I think Lundgren did the job.
Oh yeah.
They didn't, as we've said, they didn't really give him a lot of meat to chew on when it comes to the emotional parts, and that was probably the right choice because he wasn't there for his acting.
No.
But for what they gave him, this revenge tale, I thought he was perfectly serviceable.
Look, he was serviceable, and
he's like the 10-year veteran that's giving you 5 points, 5 rebounds, but you'll sign him up because he'll do the job. He'll when called upon, he'll do the job.
He's not having a 40-point night.
No.
But he'll get you something when you need it. And the thing is, the Punisher is played as very quiet, not a lot of talk, very physical. Yeah. And that's Lundgren's stock and trade in 89.
Yeah.
That was what he was. And good athlete. And that's what they were after.
Even he has a couple of good scenes. The part with the kid at the end, actually pretty well acted.
Not bad.
Yeah, I have laughed at Dolph as the Punisher before, but going back to it for the first time in 10 years,
it was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be.
And he wasn't anywhere near as bad as I thought.
God, no. And look, you're right. He was given this role not only because Pare turned it down. Do you think Michael Norrie got a call?
Norrie's agent didn't pick up the phone. I'd say Norrie gets a call for everything.
Norrie's agent issued a statement. Mr. Norrie's not interested in comic book products at this time.
Mr. Norrie's phone was running so hot at the time. All you'd get was the engaged tone, and so they didn't bother calling back.
I think Mr. Norrie's phone number was very similar to a pizza joint. That was the only reason it was running hot. He's getting a lot of false lies.
We didn't get you a job tonight, but
I got your delivery for a while.
I've got the pizza oven going, and I think we can make a few dollars on it.
But yeah, Lundgren is given a certain type of role, and I think it was all to his physicality. That's basically what they were after, a physical sort of presence. And he brings that. He's a big guy, he's a good athlete, and he has all those martial arts and kickboxing skills and stuff that you require.
Yeah.
Because my last was I actually enjoyed the fight between him and the two ninja fellas and the dojo sort of stuff.
Yeah, that was
because
right.
that seemed pretty full on. Like they were actually giving each other a bit of a touch up.
Yeah.
So it felt real. It had a little bit more reality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys were obviously good martial artists. Dolph's a good martial artist.
Yeah.
it looked really good on screen, considering the movie's pretty cheap.
Yes.
So you had to get the best you could out of some of that stuff. And they did in parts.
Yep.
Not many parts, but
in a couple of select portions.
any other likes for you?
Yeah, well, you know what?
Other than Lundgren, you got to get your double down on Lundgren.
Yeah, doubling down. I'm doubling Dolph. Yeah, I look at it and I think if they had taken a couple more elements from the comics, it would have been a perfectly serviceable little action movie. But because I don't know why. I don't know if it was so cheap that they couldn't be bothered to fucking get a bit of white paint for the black shirt to use the logo. I just felt like with a little bit more of a comic booky angle and those, because essentially that's what works about the Yakuza. The woman's a little bit over the top, a little bit. Like if they had just gone with a couple more of those comic book type angles, it would have been better.
Actually, I'll probably throw her a little bit of love. I actually thought she wasn't too bad as a villain. She brought that. Yeah, she was a little bit over the top,
A little bit quirky, eccentric.
Nobody's going to, think that she was an actress of great note. But she did a job required for what they were after.
Yeah.
And I think it was, as you say, that quirky, eccentric type of villain who also showed a little bit of toughness when that bloke kind of tries to attack her and she just grabs him by the hand and then just tells him, we will just take you guys apart, essentially.
Yep.
Well,
she was the only one of those that had moments like that. The heads of the mobsters crews didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
They just had dialogue that wasn't all that
she
snappy.
basically tells them, we'll take 75%, you both can take 25%. That's basically it. That's how it is.
The mobsters didn't have much of that snappy dialogue to, the memorable dialogue or anything like that. She had it all.
Yeah, so
really.
I'll give her a like on that front.
Yep.
Do you have any other likes?
No, that was it. Did I mention Dolph?
Dolph, you mentioned him. He was great.
Yeah.
We talked about pulse pounding to get into the dislikes. Ooh, the action scenes do not raise any excitement.
No.
They really don't. I mean, there's one in particular where he's trying to stop some sort of shipment down on the wharf or whatever. It's just boring.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was just sitting there going, what is going on?
The only part I remember out of that is that he shoots the harpoon through the guy's chest and then zip lines down on the on the thing. Other than that, it was just
it was so boring. It was like, and
including
even when the explosions and the shootouts are happening, it was kind of pretty. Yeah.
In that particular scene was one of the most laughable bits of work I've ever seen. The two henchmen arguing over the little walkie-talkie. Oh, not the walkie-talkie, but one of them says, I can't turn the thing on. And the other bloke turns it on and goes, oh, really difficult. And the next thing is back and forth. Fuck you.
Oh, fuck you.
Fuck you. Fuck you. And pulls the gun. I'm just like, oh, my God. What is going on here?
Oh, God.
It was weird. But none of the action sequences really do the job.
And if you're making a pretty much a B picture, because that's what this was, it was not a
that's where
you cut the mustard blowing things up.
That's where your bread's buttered, mate. You got to do that stuff well.
You get an idiot like me in the door by blowing some stuff up.
Because
doing it well.
We've sped through the exposition and the backstory with a quick nightly news clip. Now it's just, let's blow some shit up, let's have some punch-ons and make them exciting.
Exactly.
None of them were exciting.
And I've had many a film, I've seen many a film that you would call cheap, that, it's a shit fest, plot-wise and everything, but once the punch-ons are happening, I'm in. And when the explosions are happening, because they're well choreographed and well directed.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not too many sort of, Terminator 2 style films that cost $100 million and then the action stuff's outstanding.
Yeah.
There's not many of those. So you make your bread and butters on that cheaper side of things. You've got to give me something.
Exactly.
And you got nothing. There's absolutely nothing new here.
I mean, that's where you kind of got to get a few little set pieces happening and that's where the memorable stuff comes out, and it just didn't, it wasn't
and
there.
The only one that sort of had lifted slightly above was the fight with the two blokes. That was it.
Yep. And the as you said, the start in the mansion, but that wasn't even really an action sequence.
No, it was kind of just showing what the Punisher
could do. Yeah. You passed over the intro,
Oh, no, I was going to talk about... I don't know.
It was like a Bond film.
I really don't know. And it had this fucking shocking music.
I know.
It's like...
I didn't know, because
What's
they
going on
showing all these random bad guys.
And him shooting them down?
Oh, what was happening?
It was like a Bond star.
It was. It was weird.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
But it wasn't done with any class. like the Bond films are done with that sort of cool kind of...
They weren't paying for artists that were top of the Billboard charts at the time to do the theme or anything like that.
Look,
weird.
we talked about being cheap as chips. I mean, this thing... It doesn't even have a packet to sit the chips in. It's just fucking randomly thrown on the table.
It's the old black and gold brand, I think.
It's really cheap looking.
Yeah.
And surely you weren't paying Dolph Lundgren or Louis Gossett Jr. a large portion of your budget.
No.
So...
And you were shooting in Sydney.
Yeah. So what... And it was a fairly compressed... As I said, it's not really have much scope. Didn't really have much scope.
No,
so you can compress it. So what are you paying for?
I don't know.
You got to blow things up.
Paying for the theme and the theme song and the intro.
Jesus.
We're also, speaking of cheap, we're back in Die Hard 2 territory where Dolph meditates in the nude. Is that because they couldn't afford to buy him a costume for that particular scene? Or
Yeah, look, mate, if you're going to brood, put some fucking crackers on. And secondly, you're down in a sewer.
Yeah,
If you cut yourself, that's how you get Lyme disease.
Yeah, look, it's a catchphrase, mate. Don't brood nude. That's what we're running with from now on. Especially if you're in the sewer. Like, your tockler's touching the ground there. You're catching something. You're not careful. You've got to have at least a layer
Mate, that water's not being filtered, dick shit. I'm telling you now, you are sitting in someone's fecal matter.
Yeah, minimum. Put your jocks on. Be smart.
And put some bloody thongs or something on as well.
Yeah, that's right.
God.
Yeah, you'll have bloody tinea. God knows what.
You'll have the kind of tinea that makes you look like the bloody fly or something. Mate, don't brood the dick, mate.
I understand, like...
But I didn't quite understand all that. Was he meditating?
I thought he was meditating, but he was, I don't know, he was talking to himself or something. he was editing a few monologues while he was down there, but I get that he's kind of removed himself from society and he's not bothered by the social norms and shit, but you still live in a fucking sewer, like... Yeah, I'm not worried about anyone walking in.
I also noticed
about, what you're catching down there.
I also noticed that when he was brooding and meditating in the nick, he was quite lathered up. He was in a sweat.
There's a lot of candles in there. There's a lot of candles, not a lot of ventilation.
You know what though? He's ill.
I think Lewis Gossett might have walked in on one of those sessions. He wasn't so much talking about the murders. He's like,
you've got a fever, Dolph.
But you're meditating in the nude. You are sick. You're mentally ill.
Do you mean the 125 people I've killed? No. You look like you're cracking a fucking fever.
Yeah. No, look, next time Dolph meditates in the nude, he fucking stands up and his old fella falls off. That's your own fault. It's your own fault, mate.
Yeah, mate, it's called gangrene.
You've seen the Toxic Avenger, that's what happens.
Yeah, mate, it's called gangrene, Dolph. That's how you lost it. His beard also looks like it's kind of painted on. His beard's been kind of... It's kind of been groomed. Yeah. He looks like he's been
It looked like someone had grabbed a pencil before he went on the scene. Although I heard that the bloke was depriving himself of sleep to to get the look of the
Dolph.
to get the
What are
bags
you
under the
doing
eyes and stuff.
fucking... What in the world are you doing being a method actor in The Punisher?
No, of all the things to go method with, depriving yourself of sleep to get the bags under the eyes, mate. We've got a bit of shade for that. We can put a bit of purple shade under your eyes.
You haven't slept for 3 days. Are you serious? You know... only Daniel Day-Lewis would have gone further. He would have lived in the fucking sewer.
And meditated in the nude while he was down there.
Yeah, for 6 months. So
Day-Lewis probably would have killed 125 people.
Okay, we keep trying to get in contact with the bloke, but he's incommunicado. Turns up day one on the set. Look, I've killed 125 people, and oh, by the way, I'm just living down there. Where? I'll go to the manhole cover over there. I'll knock.
Yeah, you need to get in touch with me. Just drop a note in your toilet and flush it down.
Put it in a Ziploc bag, mate. Jesus Christ. They basically gloss over the death of Castle's family, which is a key component of The Punisher.
Yeah.
It is a key component.
Yeah, I think they...
So they're over 2 on key components because the key components of The Punisher are his family's killed and he wears a shirt with a white skull on it.
Yep.
You missed them both, dickheads.
Yeah. No, I think... I mean, in part, I didn't mind so much that they started without the origin part of it, but you needed...
We needed more than just a flashback.
It. Yeah,
they gave us a flashback.
Some sort of connection to it. Yeah, because it just...
And they were shot outside their house, correct?
No, they were in a car bomb. This one was the car bomb.
And who was doing it to them?
The bloke that he...
Was it Crab or was it Moretti or whatever, the bloke that he killed?
No, so I don't think it was the guy...
Oh, it was Crab.
It was Crab. I believe. Doesn't he say it?
Oh, look, if he did, I wasn't listening.
Back, I would. Yeah.
I think they made an absolutely terrible mistake not having the classic skull t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you wouldn't have even known he was actually the Punisher. Lundgren was cracking out those type of cheap, sort of, half-baked action films back in the 80s. The Punisher could have just been one of those cheap films, not the Punisher, the Marvel Comics character.
Yeah, pretty much.
And because he didn't wear the iconic shirt, nobody would have known, basically. And that's probably why it didn't... Nobody ever saw it back then.
And he actually would have looked... I think it would have just kind of put the costume sort of over the edge a little bit, because as it stands, it was just a fucking black t-shirt and black pants.
And also...
The boots, I know you weren't a huge fan of the boots, but...
He looked like Mad Max. He looked like he should have been in Mad Max 2.
But I thought,
crossed with an S&M club at Ted D.
But can you imagine, like, if you... That shot at the start when he's in the doorway.
Yeah, with the white shirt. Yeah. That would have been cool.
Would have been cool. Would have been really cool.
Yeah. And what I'd like to know is why.
Yeah. Who knows?
Why didn't you do it? It's could you not afford it? You bought the rights.
The fucking New World Pictures owned Marvel at the time, didn't they? So they could have done whatever they wanted. They could have put fucking Spider-Man in the movie for what they wanted, I think.
Good Lord. They owned the whole catalogue. They could have done whatever they wanted.
I don't know whether this was before or after Marvel had sold their rights to the characters, but I think it was before.
Well, I read that Stan Lee was a consultant on that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't fucking talk to him very much if they didn't use the design.
I don't believe Stan Lee's got a lot to do with the Punisher, though.
No.
I'm not mistaken.
No, but, I mean, fuck. Stan Lee was a bit of a, like, I don't know, at the time even, he was probably just a bit of a figurehead. He wasn't really doing a lot.
But surely you could have asked him, do you think we should have the white skull?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's actually the bloke's costume.
Yeah, I think, but it'd be interesting to know what they actually had access to, because if they owned the entire fucking Marvel catalogue and they
chose not to do it,
it's kind of funny. Well,
it's silly because, as I said, you don't differentiate your movie. You don't have it out there that this is the Punisher.
Yeah, exactly.
The actual Punisher from the Marvel Comics. So you pull in some punters who are comic book fans, but you don't do that. You've got a generic Dolph Lundgren action film.
Yes.
Really.
Correct.
That's why I didn't go to the cinemas.
Is that the only reason?
I think the $9 million budget may have been also a reason.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of, I don't know, deferring from the character and whatever, the Punisher delivering grog to a presumed alcoholic on a fucking remote control car, where did that come from?
I don't know. I also don't really know. They don't really set up that character dynamic between those two.
No.
He's kind of like his helper.
Yeah.
But yet...
Just getting info.
Bazzarotto seems to be kind of weirdly... I don't know. How'd they get involved?
I don't know.
The film doesn't
It was kind
adequately
of funny
explain
that,
it.
like, he was a down on his luck actor, but he was... Yeah, he's an alcoholic. Dolph's providing him with grog for information. But who's he getting the information off? How did he come across the Punisher? Like, we don't
And
get
he,
any of that.
he knew where the Punisher lived.
I could have done with a little exposition nightly news clip. But
This drunken hobo... this drunken hobo seems to know where the Punisher is.
yeah, former Broadway star.
He even knew where the Punisher was hiding
Yeah,
out.
he knew where he lived. Spying on him in the nude.
I don't have any other dislikes.
Really? I got a couple.
My big problem with the film were bigger. Like the ideas
They were fairly broad.
They were broad, yeah. The action scenes didn't work. The I'm still baffled as to why they went without key components of the Punisher mythology.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a couple for you.
Give it to me.
The stretching machine. Pretty big flaw to have the little screws.
The Dolph can just
so he can undo himself. Where maybe they should have tested it. Maybe a bit of a
that guy, you can get out of it a bit too easy.
quality assurance process.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny. Minor one, but it was kind of funny. Another one where you were talking about ideas that they were exploring. They actually were on the verge of having a really nice little dialogue exchange when Dolph and the crab. What did you say? The actor? I can't even remember the bloody character's name. Yeah,
Crab's just what Dolph got down. That's not all he got either.
They started having a little conversation about revenge.
Yeah.
And what's the limit to the revenge? And I was thinking, this is good. Like, this is where you can get some really nifty lines here, and it didn't go for long. It just they just sort of moved on from it. I was just thinking, that's where you should be. That's where you should be. That's where you get Dolph's character when they're talking about the limits to the revenge, and that's where you get how he feels about his family. That's where you get his impressions of, and that would have played really nicely with the mental illness.
Yeah.
Is he actually, obviously he's a little bit off, but you can get the sense of why he's doing what he's doing, and it just didn't.
Well, this is the interesting thing about the Punisher. Looking at the Punisher from an outsider's perspective, because I never read the comics, and all I know of the Punisher is the stuff that's been on film.
Yeah, which is that's where my major kind of knowledge of it comes from. I've read a few bits and pieces. But
the Punisher is primarily a very simple revenge idea.
Yeah.
But there are shades.
Yeah.
If you're willing to dig, there are some shades to the Punisher that you can find, and that's the kind of thing. How far is far enough for revenge?
Yeah, exactly.
How far are you going to go?
Exactly.
What, you're going to wipe out everybody?
And that's where you kind of ask questions of your audience too.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody did what they did to his whole family, that's where you start asking questions of yourself. Like,
and unfortunately,
if you had the means, what would you do to the people that did it? You know, like,
this didn't bother. And I'm not going to kick the shit out of the movie for that, because you're talking about trying to appease a small section of fans, because really, as I said, you're not going to take the proper mythology and the proper costuming. You're not really catering to fans of the Punisher.
My problem, though, is that's not even mythology. That's just interesting questions and ideas.
And they kind of went there. They kind of sort of poked a couple of times.
Yeah, they kind of poked the nude meditating man a couple of times, but they never got him to turn around and say, hey.
Ridiculous nude meditating bloke. Yeah, they never got him to actually turn around and say what. They kind of poked some of those ideas just briefly.
Yeah.
And maybe, who's not to think maybe that the script initially might have been more focused on some of that stuff.
Because that was one of the few times across all of the Punisher stuff that I've looked at thinking, I thought to myself, is there a point where he would stop? There was just, I never quite got there.
And I think that they do skirt again with that idea slightly in the next one too.
A little.
They asked that similar question.
And again, in the TV show, they explored. They got the chance to explore so much in the TV show that they skirt around there too. But that was I thought a real missed opportunity.
Now, did you say there was a problem with the Yakuza? Did we get to that?
That's my last big one. My last dislike, and it's probably the biggest, is that although I probably found the Yakuza more interesting than the other guys, the problem is the Yakuza just minimise the other guys, but they're the ones that the Punisher has the problem with.
Yeah, not the Yakuza.
So he's going after the Yakuza, but then it's like, but the guys that killed his family are being,
pushed to the back.
Pushed to the back by the Yakuza. And
then we have to team up with Krabs.
Yeah, so they're kind of, the guys, the mobsters kind of do nothing. And they're just undercut because the Yakuza comes in and they're just like, you guys are out. And their crew are just like, fuck, we are out. We got nothing to come back with here.
They just fold.
Yeah, they do. They fold, and there's just no back and forth except for the boss, who teams up with the Punisher, and then they kind of remove them and then have their little have out what they need to have out. But the preceding 50 minutes to an hour of the movie, they've just been made pointless, sort of.
Yeah.
That was my only issue with the Yakuza.
And also teaming up with the mobster guy to help him get his son out, it just doesn't feel like a Punisher move. Even though he's kind of being held to ransom because he's holding the Barry Otto.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem right.
And the funny thing is that conversation about how far is enough. He's in the elevator with a guy that he wants to get.
Just kill him.
So does he kill him and then say, I'll save the kids myself? Or I don't know.
Again, interesting ideas that probably weren't even bothered to be explored.
No.
Because once again, you're going with a B-grade action film, so you cut away some of that stuff.
Yep.
Anything else?
No, that was it for me.
All right, that was the Punisher from 89. Now we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to compare Punisher of 89 versus the Punisher of 2004 with man of the 2000s himself, Thomas Jane. So here's the trailer for 2004's The Punisher.
You're supposed to be dead.
Get up. Wheel the money out. Out the window.
You know whose money this is? You know whose building this is?
Howard Saints. You're not gonna believe this.
We're really sorry about your family.
What do you think he does?
Maybe he's an artist. Get everyone in. We're going hunting.
This is not vengeance. No, it's not vengeance. It's punishment.
Call the Russian.
Took everything from me.
Make Castle dead!
Those who do evil to others will come to know me well.
No one's ever stood up for me before.
Call me the Punisher. Shouldn't play with knives.
The Punisher from 2004, directed by Jonathan Hensley, who was actually most well known for writing both Armageddon and Die Hard with a Vengeance. Produced by R.V. Arad, who produced many of the Marvel films, current Marvel films, and Gail Ann Hurd, who produced Aliens, The Abyss and The Terminator. And it was written by Jonathan Hensley and Michael France, and Michael France wrote Cliffhanger and Goldeneye. It stars Thomas Jane as Frank Castle / the Punisher, John Travolta as Howard Saint, Will Patton as Quentin Glass, Rebecca Romaine as Joan, and Ben Foster as Spacker Dave. The budget was $33 million, and the box office was 54 worldwide. Probably scraped to break even, I'd say. Now,
You contributed at the theatres?
I did.
I did too.
I wish I hadn't. Rebecca Romaine stated that in a scene where she sews up a knife wound on Thomas Jane, she actually pushed the needle too far in and ended up actually sewing a couple of stitches on his body instead of the actual prosthetic wound that was there.
Nice.
Bags not having her as a doing any nursing.
I bet TJ
gritted his
it off.
teeth and bared it.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your take on the Punisher?
Okay, so it's another bunch of missed opportunities. I felt like whenever I watched it, I just felt like, gee, you're getting pretty close, but you just keep fluffing it. I think I like Thomas Jane. Not sure he was the man for this role.
He's a man for all seasons.
Again,
I will not cop that from you.
But again, in his defence, he didn't really get what you would want to work with for the role either, I don't think. Yeah, I've got a few big issues with the way that they deal with Castle taking his place back in society. I think maybe he should have been catching bloody diseases down in the sewer too, but they played it very differently, and I don't feel like it was... I feel like they had more advantages than Dolph's version. Like,
they had
more money,
4 times as much money.
actors.
Yeah.
But again, they just whiffed on other areas of it. So I reckon 2.5 would be fair.
Yeah, I join you on 2.5. It's better than the Dolph one, only because of what you've said. More money, better actors. It looks pretty good. Like, it's pretty well made in that sense. I would agree. I feel the same way about Thomas Jane as I did about Dolph. He's serviceable. Physically, Jane bulks up well. He has a few scenes, and he's a decent enough actor that you can buy into him.
Oh, his acting is fine.
But it's the way it's written for him.
Yeah.
The Punisher in general in this is also makes some really weird decisions.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite... they do... It's like 2 steps forward and then, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
They get the right costuming and everything, and then they take 2 steps back with him doing all sorts of stupid fucking clandestine trying to play glasses and play Saints men against him. Like, that's not the Punisher. Again, I can only go by what I know. But I see the Punisher as like a blunt object, just a guy who's just enraged.
Yeah. Look, I liked some of that.
And those ideas were interesting, but it didn't feel like a Punisher film.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'd go 2.5. I think it's a better film than Lundgren's, but not by a great deal.
No.
Which is a surprise, because I would have been thinking when we first tucked this one up, I was thinking Lundgren's 1 out of
You
5.
you were thinking, oh, it's another opportunity for me to just,
Freak
butter
the
up
man,
with Thomas Jane.
2000s.
4 out of 5, 3 of them for Thomas. Like,
Look, the likes. I found Thomas Jane okay as the Punisher.
yeah, I guess. I mean, we talked about it, and part of it is the script stuff. His acting's fine. As an actor, I really like the guy. I think he's good. I think he can cut.
You love the guy.
He
You
can
don't
cut
just really like him. You love him.
I like the guy.
Okay, you love him.
It's
Go
still
on.
the 2000s. There's still time for him to bring me around. But
He's only got another year.
yeah, I think he's.
I'm letting him off. I'm dropping him off at 2020.
You know what? You've given him 20 years. And he hasn't.
I've given him 20 years of my life.
How big's the window? Surely if you call him the man of the 2000s, you're giving him 25 at least.
No, 20. Look, you know what?
I gave him
15 with a 5 years and a grace period.
I dropped him by the time this came out. No, I think he's fine in the action sequences too. I just think, I mean, we'll probably talk about it a little bit later, but there's a little too much smoulder and mild inconvenience rather than grief has destroyed my life.
Yeah,
kinda.
but in a way, I think that kind of hampered both of these performances.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of what they gave him to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's.
I put it in the likes because I think generally the cast is actually pretty good.
Cast is pretty good. Yeah.
With Travolta hams it up.
Travolta hamming, but could have been fine in a better picture.
But it also seemed like, as I looked at the film, Travolta doesn't seem like he was there that much.
No.
I get this feeling that Travolta took a paycheck for a small amount of time.
Based on days or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But I thought Travolta was okay.
Yeah, he was okay. Will Patton gets my money.
I liked him and Will Patton together too, but Patton's probably the yeah.
He's the ace for me because I would have been happy with Patton as Saint, even, as the main villain.
Yeah.
Because Patton always brings something slightly interesting to these sort of things.
I felt they kind of fit their roles, but when you look at it, yeah, Patton's the kind of... Travolta seemed like the sort of the hothead, and Patton was the guy that was getting the job done. So I kind of liked it from that angle, and I felt like, yeah, just a little more interesting work from... It was sort of like the stuff with the Punisher actually undercut them too.
Yeah.
So...
But then you also had people in the cast like, Roy Scheider briefly. You had Ben Foster in an early role. Decent actors, solid people who can give you decent performances, and that's what you got. Yep. So, from a cast in total, I think it was pretty good.
I actually also, sticking with the villains, I actually quite like the opening in the club.
Yeah.
Where the guy, not the opening of the... Obviously, there's the scene before that, but the opening where you meet Travolta, I guess, would be the where Mickey gets taken back to the club and Glass is questioning him, and Will Patton is there. He's given that performance there, and then Travolta comes into the club, and starts going on about I'm going to kill the man that was supposed to protect my son, and then shoots the other guy. And I was sort of like that all sort of set him up pretty nicely. I actually felt like that
for me
worked out quite well.
The real standout sequence for me with Patton that sort of indicates he would make for a really great villain is when he actually rips all the piercings out of Ben Foster's face.
Yeah, that was cool.
It's cold and calculated that he just talks to him like he's a normal bloke, and then he just starts ripping them out. It's really kind of cold.
Yep.
And I really liked that, and I felt that's the kind of guy that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And then he just walks out and his hands are covered in blood, and he just says, if he'd have known something, he would have talked. Yeah. It's like, the guy's just like, he's got no he's got no sort of compulsion but to just do this. It doesn't bother him.
Yeah.
And so I like that, and I think that that's kind of something he could have brought to the main villain role.
But you know what?
But in a way, he works really well in the back villain.
Yeah, I think that stuff was okay, and I think it was other stuff that made it not quite work so well. I think those two together sort of did all right. I mean, I've made John Travolta a little bit of a punching bag in previous episodes, but the guy can do the work, especially in something like this where you're not expecting all the nuance all the time. You know, you are allowed to chew a lot of the scenery, and he does that.
Travolta, in a way, understood the brief that he was probably given, which is you're allowed to go over the top. This is a comic book film. You're supposed to be a scenery chewing kind of diabolical villain. That's kind of what we want from you.
Exactly.
And I think we got that.
Yeah,
in a way.
I think we did too.
I actually loved the opening credits. I thought the way it opened was absolutely fantastic.
Question: would you have paid as much attention to that if you didn't have Dolph's opening credits in the front of your mind?
Possibly not. But I love the way that Marvel Comics comes up and then you just hear boom, 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 and it just it turns into like a comic book page and bullet holes go through it.
Yeah.
And then you see the falling gun shells, and they're all hand drawn. And it's got that melancholy kind of music and everything. That was great.
Yeah,
I just thought it was it had a real kind of like film noir type of feel to it, and comic book feel. And I really liked it. I thought, geez, we've opened strong here.
Yeah. I had to have a bit of a laugh in the first scene where Thomas Jane's undercover and as Otto Krieg. He was reprising the Andy Dick look that he was rocking in Face Off. Yeah, I'm not one for fan theories, but I'm throwing mine out there.
Krieg!
Frank Castle's undercover in Face Off.
Yeah, possibly.
It was everything but the glasses. Chuck the glasses on him, and it's a more refined Otto. Well, it's a more scruffy Otto Krieg in Face Off.
Yeah, where were you going with that though?
No, it was just it made me laugh.
Yeah.
Like seeing that again, and I'm just like, those kind of blonde scruffy locks don't really work for me.
No, they don't work for TJ. Come on, mate.
It was quite funny.
I actually did like the scene where they killed his family. I actually thought that was okay.
Yeah.
It worked all right for what it was.
I had a major
But I got
issue.
major dislikes with the family in general.
Yeah, I had a big problem with the scene, which I'll get to. I liked the setting and everything.
It was suitably explosive.
Yeah, but
blew a few things up.
They were on an island. They were fairly isolated. They had the reeds that the bad guys were creeping through and shit like that. I thought that stuff was all set up really nicely.
And I actually found that sequence where he sees his wife and child get run over, and then he runs up to them. It was very much like Mad Max. It reminded me of the first Mad Max.
Yeah.
And
done with a few more flourishes like Mad Max.
Yeah. A little bit more flourish, but there was a little bit of emotion in that.
Yeah.
And how he gets up, he just starts walking towards them, going.
I liked that. That was the kind of first hint of the mindset that he was going to be in, where he's just fucking standing right in front of him. Like, those blokes need to be off Saints payroll ASAP.
If they cannot kill the man.
But yeah, the way that he just stood there and kind of...
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, so I didn't have too big of... I didn't dislike that.
Like I said, I had one problem with it that was sort of in the middle, but I'll talk about that when we get a little further into it.
I was also a big fan of shooting the barbecue tank.
Yeah, that was
behind
good.
him and blowing him up.
That was
cool.
What about a little bit of peak 2000s? A little bit of Seether, Broken.
Oh, yeah.
Cranks out a couple of times.
Who I mean, I was a new metal dickhead from way back in the early 2000s.
But see, this was new metal where they just, stripped it back.
Yeah, look, that's not a bad song.
I do like that song.
And
so to hear it a couple of times.
Got a run in the film.
Yep.
It worked for me. I actually really liked, and again, this comes back to interesting ideas that perhaps weren't fully realised.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I also felt doing this was only for the reveal of, Castle kind of turned saint against Glass.
Yep.
Is Glass being gay?
Yeah, that was a really good idea.
I thought it was a really interesting idea, and I liked the fact that, and this stuff, they weren't doing this in often in action films with villains. They weren't. He was gay. but he was still just as nasty and you know, a hard sort of bloodthirsty sort of prick.
Yeah.
No matter what, it didn't matter. Like,
Well, the thing was I still really like it that they did it because of exactly what you said. They stuffed it with one very, very crucial part of it, but the whole idea was awesome because it subverted the trope.
Yeah.
As you said, in this kind of movie that didn't have a lot of shades and a lot of colour to a lot of characters,
yeah.
as you said, at the time, that, you know, a gay character wouldn't have shown up in a movie like this. So to have him there doing that and then
he was
have
cold-hearted.
that reveal,
He was nasty.
yeah, it didn't sort of change anything about who he was in the scheme of the villains kind of hierarchy.
But to have a gay character in action films in 2004 was rare.
Yeah.
It's not done at all.
Yeah.
But to have a gay character who was a villain was even more subverting the tropes and going against it. And I thought that was really intriguing, an interesting way to do it.
I thought it was...
And I think it worked.
Well, I think it worked, but... And I didn't see this so much the last time I watched it. Again, I think it's been quite a while since I watched this one too. But watching it this time around, there's one thing they do that really kind of undercuts it and reinforces the stereotypes all over again. But I'm still kind of like, I think it still stands as a fairly solid move in the genre and showing that you can mix it up a little bit here, you know?
Exactly.
I actually, one of TJ's finest moments for me, the blowtorch.
Yeah,
with
that
the
was kind of
steak and the
interesting.
ice cream.
Yeah.
I was just like, the way he describes it, the way, you know, if you knew a little bit about his background and then you're hearing him talk about this, you're thinking, oh shit, you know, if you're in that guy's shoes, you are going to be taking it word for word. And then, you know, obviously he cooks the steak and hits him with the icy pole and he's there screaming and squealing or whatever, and it's kind of funny. Again, goes
Slightly
against the
different.
tropes a little bit. You know, you expect when he starts talking about that, you're thinking, oh, that's what he's going to do. But it's just a bit...
And I guess
bit of
subverting
comedy.
what the Punisher, what you expect.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that goes into my dislikes too.
Yeah, exactly. Because
it's a bit the same with the
character-
fight with Big Sexy.
Yeah.
The fight is awesome. I
fight's
actually really
really
like
cool.
the fight because it's
Very good
feels really legitimate. Like, you feel that Castle's really going to get his ass kicked.
Yep.
And all those things where you see him set up where he places his guns and that, and then he goes for them and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And it's
Very good.
almost, there are parts of the fight which are almost comical.
Yes, they are. That part where he gets the gun and then he fucking
Just gets it,
Nash just whacks it and then he kind of looks at it. Jane, that might have been one of his finest moments. He holds the gun up and he's got this groggy look on his face.
I also love the bit where he finally kills him, and then he stands over him and he says something like, I'm alright.
Yeah.
But he's not. And then he just collapses out of shot.
Yeah. That was good.
It was kind of comical, but it was also a pretty solid drag out sort of punchline fight.
I really liked the fight.
Yeah.
Another comical moment, the bloke eating his soup, laundering the money, goes for another dip in the saucepan, but you've seen the hand quickly snatch it. Next thing you know, the soup's thrown on him and he gets a whack in the face with the saucepan. I don't know why, I was just laughing my ass off at that. That was great stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of what you said about the fight with Nash and the same with that, it kind of goes against the makeup of the character a little bit. I think that's pretty much it for me.
As I said before, I thought ripping out his piercings was a really nasty way to torture somebody.
Yep.
And I thought it was really well handled by the way Patton kind of talks to him about it first, and tries to kind of like reassure him almost, and then just starts grabs a pair of pliers and just quietly starts grabbing him and going, come here.
Yeah.
And because Ben Foster's character's a bit of a wimp, you know, he can't fight him off, he just kind of rips him out.
But he kind of, you know, returns the favour of Castle standing up for him.
Yeah. And I really like the last line.
Yeah.
Frank Castle is dead. Call me the Punisher. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. That was pretty solid.
Yeah. But that's really it for me. The likes side of things.
Excellent. Dislikes?
the whole idea of, and this is where I feel, for all the good and interesting ideas they went for, and one of them is turning Saint and Glass against each other, using, you know, the whole idea of the wife and everything. For all of that good stuff, and, you know, Glass's character being gay and the kind of subverting tropes of how Castle would, you know, normally would torture somebody exactly as he said, but he didn't. But then there's just, it's riddled with cliche as well, with, oh, he's undercover, it's his last operation, and then he's going to retire and all this. I'm just like, fucking hell. Like, honestly, like, couldn't you have gone somewhere better?
Probably.
Like, anywhere?
I think we could have.
Like, you've put so much effort into taking it in slightly different directions, but then you just undo all that with this crap that everyone just expects. Yeah. I don't know whether they felt we're going a little bit outside of what the Punisher would be, so we need to come back a little bit to it too. And they came back to some of the shit. Yeah.
Further to what you were just saying too, though, but those moments that we were laughing at, and almost all of them were something that you wouldn't expect the Punisher to do. Yeah. And normally I don't like that way of thinking, that you need to expect everything that's going to happen from the character. Yeah. But with something like the Punisher, it is very defined of how his revenge is just, you know, he is representing something, and it's like, that's why they match him with characters like Daredevil, who has a need for justice. Yeah. You know, the Punisher is doling out his brand of justice, and they're aligned in what they want, but the way that they dole it out is very different. So to have him doing these things is kind of against all of that, which was one of the big problems with this one.
It doesn't work, because this film is kind of weirdly in the guts. It's got interesting things over here, but then sticking very much to some of what we want from the Punisher, which is what I wanted. Yep. Too. I'm not saying they didn't want it, but they didn't get the balance right. No. And I said this to you before, because my next dislike is one of my major ones, is that the best type of Punisher movie was something like Man on Fire. Yeah. That showcased almost an hour of him getting to know Peter, giving him something to live for, then taking that away, and then he explodes into fucking rage. Yeah. And that's all he thinks about. It's just rage. I kill everything. Yep. And yeah, there's that great line in Man on Fire when he says, I'm going to kill them all. Anyone involved, anyone who profited from it, anyone who looks at me sideways. Yeah. And he does. Exactly. And I see that's the Punisher. That's the kind of the Punisher for me. It's similar with,
again, going with Denzel, I find something like The Equalizer very similar, is that there's this single-mindedness. Like, The Equalizer is different in that you've got this guy who's provoked, whereas Man on Fire is more like, you know, as you said, something's taken away from him. But the thing I love about The Equalizer that fits in that kind of mould is when shit is on, there is just scenes of these guys just being completely outmatched by Denzel. Yeah. And that's what this particular Punisher movie lacks. Yes. There is very few sequences where you just think, fuck, Frank Castle is just unstoppable. Yeah. Like, there's never any of that. Even the standard kind of henchmen that he goes against, they're not just completely out of their element. They're not completely over their heads, which would have made the Nash fight even better, because then you're like, oh shit, this might be the first time he's actually really in some shit. Yeah. You know, so the problem for me, because that's what I was saying, is I see the Punisher like Man on Fire. They take away his family and then he goes apeshit, basically. Yeah. But there's no dynamic with his family. No. Within 25 minutes, his family is dead. Yeah. And it's a 2-hour picture. Yep. So what are we doing for 90 minutes? You can't have Castle
cut loose for 90 minutes.
You
That
can't
wouldn't
have,
have worked.
you can't have him cut loose for 90 minutes, but when he does cut loose, you want to see it
Yeah.
cut loose. And
So what
there's
they did
nothing
was,
in that.
I understand why they went with putting Saint and Glass against each other and okay, that's how you fill some of your 90 minutes.
Yep.
But then you got to cut loose, and then you don't cut loose
No.
at all.
Even the finale
Yeah.
is just a bit of a whimper.
Yeah,
you know?
it's kind of lacking in a little bit of power, and they just don't. You don't care about his family.
No.
Like I didn't get to know them.
No, not at all. You didn't know anything about him. The kids, anything like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would have taken all that much longer to develop a few scenes to really show what he means, what they meant to him, other than, oh, it's the last job. I
Yeah.
can spend some time with you now. Like,
Yeah.
there had to be a bit more, and that's probably what the TV series did better than any of the others. Like,
Yeah.
you believed that Bernthal was just destroyed by what happened to the family. Yeah, it's a pretty big failing for the Punisher movie, I guess.
And again, they, at the expense of building decent relationships, they try and get us to him dishing out punishment, but then he doesn't dish it out.
He doesn't dish out, doesn't
Not
dish it
to
out in
the
fashion you
level
expect.
that I would have expected.
No, and I mean, as you said, you had the dislike around the way that he deals with Saint. So I didn't.
No, I didn't hate it.
Some
I
aspects.
just felt it got bogged.
No, well, it did get bogged. The thing that I liked was when he played the whole angle with Saint and Quentin and his wife. There was actually a bit to that where I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's kind of like Othello, you know, the guy driving himself mad. And so then he kills his own wife, he kills his best friend. I'm kind of like, I could have lived with that. But what I didn't need was the Cubans arguing with Saint and Castle throwing their money out a window.
Yeah. But what was the point of all that shit?
Well, it was just that was all undercutting Saint. And I got what he was doing, but surely you could have still achieved that, but had him go in and just destroy the crew as well. You know, the part where they're on the boats with the money the second time.
Yeah.
Surely you could have dealt with that, but in the same token, you know, you could have had Saint saying, oh, I put my best guys on it or whatever, and Castle just rips, you know, he just cuts a swath through all of them and destroys the money as well. Like, he was just being a nuisance without actually being the Punisher.
Yeah.
You know?
But my thinking is, we didn't necessarily... We could have had the Cubans, right? But then Castle to show Saint, I'm onto you, I'm after you, is kill the entire Cuban crew and just put him, you know, put him there, you know, like he's got a shipment coming in.
Yeah.
And that shipment arrives and everybody's dead.
Well, I felt, it should have been something more on that grounds
And
of
it's
where
showing
Saint, Quentin and his wife, you're toying with them because you
That's
want
fine,
Saint
keep that.
to feel what you felt,
Yep.
and doing it himself and then finding out that
He was wrong.
is pretty, you know, that's probably worth
Keep
the
all
effort.
that, keep
But
all that.
everybody else on the periphery is like what you were saying
Just
with
hammer time, mate.
with Man on Fire. You're involved and you're just in my way.
Yeah.
You know, and there was just not enough of that.
Yeah.
And I think, I think that would have strengthened things quite a
I'm
bit.
also not sure how Castle survives being shot at point blank range in the chest, directly basically in the heart, or is it on the other side? Must be on the other side. Hits him there. I don't know too many people who survive
Well,
getting shot like that. So that kind
That's
of
a big-
undercut. I would have been more for they just decide to burn the pier down and blow him up, and he
this is the
flies
thing.
away from the explosion. And
you
that's
know,
it.
if that's what you've been sent to achieve, and you've got him standing there on the pier, surely you're shooting him in the head.
Yeah.
These are the little things, but I'm like, this is why I disliked parts of that scene.
Yeah.
There was that surely you could have found a better way for him to be shot and survive than you've got him dead to rights and you choose to shoot him in the guts, presumably, if he survives, and then light the pier on fire while he's floating in the water, floating off to the mysterious bloody voodoo man's boat.
They cut that.
But yeah, there was that, and the other thing I really hated was the car chase from the house
Yeah, with his wife.
with his wife. Like, it just felt like padding.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, we just didn't need it at the time.
I think it was
just
trying
deal
to add more action
I know.
style things, but it wasn't
But
really
why
necessary.
add it there and then not later on when you needed all the action and him dealing with bad guys in quite severe fashion? It was
See,
just...
to me, you know what I would have had? And I thought this is where it was initially going. I forgot about the car chase. You saw the wife and kid going, hearing the gunshots and hiding, then going, we're going to make a run for the boat
Yeah.
or the car. And as they're
Well,
running
the pier,
across,
the pier didn't have to be a car right away, did it?
someone turns and sees them and goes,
What was wrong with the pier being close to the house?
And then maybe Castle cuts loose with kills a few lackeys because he's just seen his wife killed.
Yeah.
And then maybe explosion goes off or something and it blows him. And then they bolt because, you know, shit's blown everything's been blown up, the cops are on their way.
Yeah.
That could have been an easier way to handle it.
I think
and
it
I
could have
think
been
it would have
a
had
little
more
better.
resonance. I mean, it was always going to have very little resonance because you didn't know his wife.
Well, that was kind of where you needed to spend the time building the resonance and cut fucking 3 minutes of car chase.
Yeah.
The car chase was shit.
And you were 2 hour picture. You can go 40 minutes
Yeah.
before his family gets killed. Plenty more time.
Speaking of shit and the family reunion, Roy Scheider's speech. Oh, mate.
Pure shit.
Come on. That's what you're at the family reunion saying, listen, mate, just lay off the goon for a while. Come on, just have a rest, old son. Go and sit in the chair over there and, you know,
Stop. Put down the little sack. Put down the silver sack you're carrying around there and stop talking.
Yeah, we've all had those family events where we have to conspire to get the microphone off somebody. You know, there's a stop. Yeah, cut him off.
Yeah. I'm not sure I needed to see Castle sitting shirtless in the dark drinking piss to know that he was a fucking alcoholic.
Yeah, it was quite common. It was quite. I think we got the sense.
Yeah, I needed it once to know he was a piss wreck.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, him being a piss wreck never played into anything. So
Yeah.
what was the point?
But even if you are a piss wreck and you know, surely you turn on the lights occasionally. Like, you want to know what you're drinking.
Surely you put a shirt
You
on.
want to make sure it's the wild turkey and not the bloody tomato sauce or something.
Or the sack of goon you scooped up at the family reunion.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed that my wife and child are dead, but thank Christ I saved the goon bag. It's nearly empty.
Yeah, look, yeah, I don't think we really needed any of that.
No.
And look, I've been hungover a few times and I don't remember being capable of kicking anyone's ass the next morning.
Oh, no. I'm shocking with a hangover. I mean, if I was the Punisher, the only thing getting punished would be me.
Yeah, I was the Punisher of my own liver. A few times, I was an idiot. They spend way too much time on the 3 people living in the apartment block with him.
Yes.
I mean, I know they're trying to create like a new family,
Yep.
but it was just stupid. Like, it wasn't necessary.
Oh, could we have dropped Bumpo or whatever his
Yeah,
name
yeah,
was?
the
It could have just been Ben Foster and
Yeah.
Rebecca Romijn.
Yeah.
For sure.
and the Rebecca Romaine stuff, that worked. I was happy to keep that
Yep.
for the reason being is that she had the scumbag boyfriend.
Yeah.
That gave us a bit of Punisher.
That was the one moment where he looked like he
Yeah.
could just
Kick your ass.
kick anyone's ass when he felt like it.
But she also had that sequence where she talks about how she always seems to find the wrong. You know, I've moved 10 times or whatever. I always
Yeah.
found the biggest dickhead I can find. And,
Yep.
you know, and she is the one that brings up the whole.
Does that mean if she comes to Canberra, she'll bump into you? Or?
What do you say? What are you trying to say? That is a fucking low blow, I can tell you. But the thing is, she also brings up what I said before in the Lundgren Punisher,
Yeah.
which is how much is enough? Like, how much revenge can you get?
That's right. And this is where, when you get those characters and that's kind of what you're working around, right? When do you start to heal? When does, when you finish this, is it over? And I guess with the Punisher, it's not. It's never going to be over. And but you can still work some pretty nice dialogue around that sort of stuff.
So, again, a missed opportunity.
Yep.
Because that conversation is worth digging into.
Yeah, and that feeds into one of my big dislikes, is that I don't mind Castle making the connections. As you said, it's not, you don't want it to be a huge part of it, but I don't mind him making connections. But I don't really want to see Castle, renting. I don't need to see Castle making rent in an apartment block. I'll tell you what, the landlord's going to be fucking pissed off when he sees all the modifications Castle's
including
making.
putting in a small bloody elevator or some shit.
Yeah, Castle just needs a spot. He doesn't need an
Castle
apartment.
should live in his car.
Yeah. Well, he just needs a spot where you can meditate without being interrupted.
Alternatively, in a sewer.
A sewer,
right?
Exactly. But then, look at the TV series had something similar to the sewer. I don't think they ever said it was a sewer, but it was just this abandoned
warehouse
place. And I think, again, I don't remember in great detail, but if my memory serves, Warzone's the same. It's just like a warehouse.
And there's plenty of abandoned warehouses.
I'm sure you can find something that nobody else wants to bloody sleep in.
My biggest problem is the man was supposed to be discreet. His best move, his best weapon is that he's dead.
Exactly.
Right? But then he rocks up to the cop shop and goes, Frank Castle?
Yeah, Castle, we thought you were dead. Well, fuck. If I had any sense, I would be.
Oh, no, now everyone knows I'm back.
Well, that's the thing.
It's so stupid.
You're cutting blokes off. This is you spend portions of the picture. I mean, he spends so much time being a nuisance to Saint, but aren't you a real nuisance if you're picking a few of his blokes off and they've got no idea if it's the same guy, who's doing it?
Is it the Cubans?
Yeah.
Is it the bloody, my other organised crime figures who are trying to cut me out?
But no, immediately,
it's
fuck,
fucking
it's
Frank Castle.
Yeah, I really hated that. I hated it.
They really cocked that up.
Yeah, massively.
And he also rocks up the conversation. It's been 4 months and you haven't found out who killed my family. Look, that shit was in Puerto Rico. That's up to the Puerto Rican police.
But why is he annoyed about that? Because he knows who kills his family at that point, doesn't he?
I think so.
So why the fuck is he going to fucking chastise someone else for it?
No, maybe he doesn't.
I can't remember. I think it... Oh, fuck, I only watched it an hour ago.
That's what happens when you're 1.5, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Go pick up on the nuance.
Yeah. I thought he knew at that point, and which made it, to me...
redundant.
Just seems silly. Like, it's just so... It was... To me, that's probably the biggest mistake of the movie.
Yes. Because he is supposed to be in the shadows, and he's supposed to be...
Well, as you said, it's his best weapon.
Yep.
Who's the Punisher?
Yep. Well, he hasn't even called himself the Punisher yet.
Well, that's it.
But all he knows...
We don't get to craft a Punisher because he wasn't fucking punishing anybody. He just came back and said, I'm here.
But suddenly the Cubans are dead. Fuck, who killed them? I don't know, some nasty bastard because their entire crew was knocked over.
Yeah, which is what they actually did in the
and
first
my money
one.
was stolen.
Even though they just said it on the news, they said the mysterious Punisher who's knocked over 125 people. At least that's what it's supposed to be. Like who
is this guy?
Who is this guy?
And
he's like it's like a myth almost.
You killed the Cuban group and you took their money. I could have then bought back into, okay, Castle's in a warehouse and maybe...
Well, fuck, he could have bought his own apartment.
He becomes the fucking, the bloody scumlord or something. Is that what he becomes?
Yeah.
And the last dislike for me, Glass tells Saint that, mate, we've got the best hitman coming into town. He's from Memphis. And up rocks fucking Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Serenades the bloke. I mean, he's the worst hitman in the world. He gets killed in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. Takes time for a quip, doesn't he? Who brings a knife to a gunfight?
Yeah.
That just gives Thomas just enough time to cop that.
That was so stupid, and you didn't need him at all. You could have had we're getting the best, and then the fucking Russian turns up.
You know what else I just realised?
Thomas Jane is a legend.
Going back to it, not quite legend status, nearly there. But going back to our previous dislike, I actually noted it was 45 minutes, about the 45-minute mark when he goes to the courthouse. So we've spent 25 with Frank Castle and his family, roughly. Killed him. He's incognito for fucking 15 minutes.
He's barely cold.
Exactly. So then we have an hour and 15, nearly. An hour and 10.
Of Castle being well known.
Out in the open. Fuck, that was stupid.
And nobody, like, Howard Saint, who could find Castle, could work out that Otto Krieg was Frank Castle.
Yeah.
An undercover cop.
Yep.
In an undercover job, which is very hard to get that information.
Yeah.
But you couldn't find Frank Castle living in an apartment block with a couple of scumbags.
When he goes and tells everyone he's back.
Tells everyone he's Frank Castle. I mean,
stupid.
At one point, Rebecca Romaine says to him, "You're Frank Castle." When she first sees him. Jesus. Oh, the jig's up.
Yeah. Well, that's why I did it. Oh, fuck. Everyone knows me by now, so I might as well just put it out there.
Yeah, I'm a Virgo. I like long walks on the beach.
Yeah. Long walks in the beach, preferably without Howard Saint's crew tailing me and my family while I'm doing it. But a couple of kind of funny ones. A crook called Saint with a club called Saints and Sinners.
Oh, yeah.
A+ on the writing there. Brilliant. The wife giving it the wait in the car. Wait. His family. The whole family. That was just awful. It was so bad.
Just Castle. That was never going to work.
The line delivery, though, where she's in there, you know, in the limo with her face covered, and then you think, when she uncovers her face, you think it's going to be someone, like, super famous or something, and it's just, uncovers are just a poor delivery of the written lines.
Yep.
And another one that kind of cracked me up more than it should have was Saint puts the $50,000 hit out. You all get $50,000. We're going hunting. $50,000 for the man who gets him. Yep, everyone's on board. Then they proceed to fucking all stay in the same room and fucking swill champagne so he can take out a number of them just with that bomb. I'm like, if you're going hunting, I was expecting everyone to, pick up tools and off you go. Like, you get your guns and start patrolling the car park or something. It seemed like only two blokes were doing that. Everyone else just collected the 50 and thought, fuck this, I'm not going to catch him anyway, so let's just sit down and drink some champagne on the house and go home with our 50. Yeah, that made me laugh. But yeah, so probably my biggest one was going back to Glass. So as we talked about, it was a great opportunity to kind of subvert the tropes, and it did that for a little bit, but then it just kind of undercuts it all again by going this angle of, I'm going to tell your boss that you're gay. It's like that was his whole angle for blackmail, is you don't want anyone to know you're gay. And it's sort of like, okay, so you made a really smart move by doing this, but then it's all, but it's still got to be covered up.
Yeah.
Because you can't be the tough guy if you're gay.
Yeah.
So that was kind of it took that kind of nice little surprise that they'd sprung on you.
And it felt like they used it just to fool Saint. You know, it was kind of like the whole, he couldn't possibly have had an affair with your wife, he's gay.
Yeah,
You know, it just kind of, the payoff for it, rather than just being part of the character.
Yeah.
Glass was a gay man who happened to be a villain and a second-in-command villain.
Yeah.
And also a nasty bastard into the bargain.
Could have almost worked somehow that they flipped that they were onto the angle of they're having an affair with your wife, and then someone else is the one that discovers him.
Yeah.
That he's gay.
Yeah, possibly.
I don't know, but I just felt they'd started off with something really strong, like a really solid idea, and then kind of...
Yeah, they kind of botched it.
Undercut it a little bit.
Yeah, did away with it. I was a bit like you. I was quite disappointed in how it played out. Any other dislikes from you?
That was it from me, other than Thomas Jane still waiting to be awarded the title.
He has the title, so I have to take it from him.
I'm not sure what the criteria is if he's still got it.
Look, he's in the
Is it to be a
B-pool.
disappointment in each film that you turn up in, or
That's harsh.
to be solid in disappointing films? I should say.
Maybe. That is The Punisher from 2004. So look, we will get to Warzone down the track. Interestingly enough, this is my preference. I remember thinking Warzone was probably the best one.
Yeah, out of the three movies for sure.
But
if I had to go with a Punisher, with a screen Punisher, it's definitely the TV series. But if I'm just picking from the movies, yeah,
and
my memory says Warzone was the one that I'd go for.
Yeah, we'll revisit Warzone. Not right now, but we will revisit it in the future.
Had enough of the Punisher for now.
I've been punished. Oh yeah. Find us on Podomatic, iTunes, and Spotify. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia and at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. We're also on Instagram at thrillmepodcastau. Now, keep an eye on our Facebook page for some more details. We're trying to do a few little things, get a couple of little things sorted, but possibly even getting a chance to do an episode with another podcasting crew. The Nostalgia Be Damned guys. We're still trying to work that out. But keep an eye on our Facebook for what we're going to do in the future. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.